Good evening and welcome back to another episode of The Longing. Today we are going to be continuing to read Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Book 4. So, let's just crack on, because it is far too warm. That, however, namely, pity, is called virtue itself at present by all petty people. They have no reverence for great misfortune, great ugliness, great failure. Beyond all these do I look, as a dog looketh over the backs of thronging flocks of sheep. They are petty, good-willed grey people. As the heron looketh contemptuously at shallow pools, with backward bent head, so do I look at the throng of grey little waves, and wills and souls. Too long have we acknowledged them to be right, those petty people. So we have at last given them power as well. And now do they teach that good is only what petty people call good. And truth is at present what the preacher spake who himself sprang from them, that singular saint and advocate of the petty people, who testified of himself, I am the truth. That immodest one hath long made the petty people greatly puffed up. He who taught no small error when he taught, I am the truth. Hath an immodest one ever been answered more courteously? Thou, however, O Zarathustra, passest him by, and saidst, Nay, nay, 3 times nay. Thou warnedst against his error. Thou warnedst the first to do so, against pity. Not every one, none, but thyself and thy type. Thou art ashamed of the shame of the great sufferer. And verily, when thou sayest, From pity there cometh a heavy cloud, take heed, ye men. When thou teachest, all creators are hard, all great love is beyond their pity. O Zarathustra, how well versed dost thou seem to me in weather signs. Thou thyself, however, warn thyself also against thy pity. For many are on their way to thee, many suffering, doubting, despairing, drowning, freezing ones. I warn thee also against myself. Thou hast read my best, my worst riddle, myself, and what I have done. I know the axe that felleth thee, but he had to die. He looked with eyes which beheld everything. He beheld men's depths and dregs, all his hidden ignominy and ugliness. His pity knew no modesty. He crept into my dirtiest corners. This most prying, over-intrusive, over-pitiful one had to die. He ever beheld me. On such a witness I would have revenge, or not live myself. The God who beheld everything, and also man, that God had to die. Man cannot endure it that such a witness should live. Thus spake the ugliest man. Zarathustra, however, got up, and prepared to go on, for he felt frozen to the very bowels. Thou nondescript, said he, thou warnest me against thy path. As thanks for it, I praise mine to thee. Behold, up thither is the cave of Zarathustra. My cave is large and deep, and hath many corners. There findeth he that is most hidden his hiding. There findeth he that is most hidden his hiding place. And close beside it there are 100 lurking places and by-places for creeping, fluttering, and hopping creatures. Thou outcast, who hast cast thyself out, thou wilt not live amongst men and men's pity? Well then, do like me. Thus wilt thou learn also from me. Only the doer learneth. And talk first and foremost to mine animals, the proudest animal and the wisest animal. They might well be the right counsellors for us both. Thus spake Zarathustra, and went his way, more thoughtfully and slowly even than before, for he asked himself many things, and hardly knew what to answer. How poor indeed is man, thought he in his heart. How ugly how wheezy, how full of hidden shame. They tell me that man loveth himself. Ah, how great must that self-love be! How much contempt is opposed to it. Even this man hath loved himself, as he hath despised himself. Sorry, I am a child at heart. A great lover, methinketh, he is, and a great despiser. No one have I yet found who more thoroughly despised himself. Even that is elevation. Alas, was this, perhaps, the higher man whose cry I heard? I love the great despisers. Man is something that hath to be surpassed. Chapter 68. The Voluntary Beggar. When Zarathustra had left the ugliest man, he was chilled and felt lonesome. For much coldness and lonesomeness came over his spirit, so that even his limbs became colder thereby. When, however, he wandered on, up hill and down, at times past green meadows, though also sometimes over wild stony couches, where formerly, perhaps, an impatient brook had made its bed, then he turned all at once warmer and heartier again. What hath happened unto me? He asked himself. Something warm and living quickeneth me. It must be in the neighbourhood. Already am I less alone. Unconscious companions and brethren rove around me. Their warm breath toucheth my soul. When, however, he spied about and sought for the comforters of his lonesomeness, behold, there were Kine there standing together on an eminence, whose proximity and smell had warmed his heart. The Kine, however, seemed to listen eagerly to a speaker, and took no heed of him who approached. When, however, Zarathustra was quite nigh unto them, then did he hear plainly that a human voice spake in the midst of the... I don't know how this is pronounced. Kine. And apparently all of them had turned their heads towards the speaker. Then ran Zarathustra up speedily and drove the animals aside, for he feared that someone had here met with harm, which the pity of the Kine would hardly be able to relieve. But in this he was deceived, for behold, there sat a man on the ground who seemed to be persuading the animals to have no fear of him, a peaceable man and preacher on the mount, out of whose eyes kindness itself preached. "What dost thou seek here?" called out Zarathustra in astonishment. "What do I here seek?" answered he. "The same that thou seekest, thou mischief maker. That is to say, happiness upon earth. To that end, however, I would fain learn of these Kine. For I tell thee that I have already talked half a morning unto them, and just now were they about to give me their answer. Why dost thou disturb them? Except we be converted and become as Kine, we shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven, for we ought to learn from them one thing, ruminating. And verily, although a man should gain the whole world, and yet not learn one thing, ruminating, what would it profit him? He would not be rid of his affliction. His great affliction, that, however, is at present called disgust, who hath not at present his heart, his mouth, and his eyes full of disgust. Thou also, but behold these Kine. I honestly don't know how that is pronounced, so I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, and if you know better, but that one's a new one to me. Kine. No, Kine is spelt differently. Anyway, with that aside, I might go and have a look for that after this, just to see how it is actually pronounced. But regardless, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you all have... Oh, excuse me, it's so warm. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon or night. No matter what time of day it is, I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.